Welcome to the Draft Professor channel, home of Epic Mock 26, April 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Welcome to the Draft Professor, everybody. My name's Jim. I am joined by Christian and EJ, and Jordan is around the corner. He'll be joining us in about 15 minutes. We're going to go over the consensus board and where some of our rankings are different. But before we dive into that, EJ, it's been a week since I've seen you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Wait, before we start anything, where did we get the new intro from? I think that's new.
Yes, actually, this is the very first podcast with that.
I'm not gonna lie, that caught me off guard.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, what is this?
I did it. It caught me off guard too. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I did that for this podcast, didn't I? So yeah, we got an Epic Mock promo, and one of the Draft Professors is the one that made it, and we'll probably have a different one rolling out for summer scouting here in a few weeks. But we're moving up in the world just a little bit.
Yeah, I was about to say that's how you know a channel is doing good once the intros start coming through.
Absolutely. The channel is doing awesome, and I can't do it without the two of you and 85 other Draft Professors, but it's awesome to see both of you. So Christian, we're going to be going over like the consensus board and where you and EJ and Jordan are relative to consensus. Is there a player, Christian, that stands out to you where your grade is a lot higher than the consensus board?
Looking through right now, the name I probably would say maybe I just kind of did like a brief little 100 before I finalized my draft board in preparation for tonight. I had Dylan Thieneman 13th overall, but even the consensus boards, it's got him at 18. So I can't really say I'm a lot higher on Thieneman than the general public because they're pretty in line with where I'm at. But Thieneman would have been my candidate. I would say I'm probably a little higher on Kenyon Sadiq. I've got a top 15 overall on him, and he's still 16, so that's not that much of a difference. But scrolling on down to into the 30s and 40s, I would say maybe a Maxi Onshore. I've got a top 30 on him, and he's kind of down there around 40. I think I'd be more content using a first round pick on him.
Okay. EJ, how about you? Is there a player that you look at the top of the board, you look at the top of your board, and you're like, wow, you're way higher than consensus on?
I'm gonna start with quarterback. Garrett Nussmeier. They got him at 80 on the consensus board. I just think, I'm willing to throw out the 2025 tape. He wasn't healthy. All of his struggles were a domino effect from his abdominal injury. So like it screwed up his throwing motion, it screwed up his accuracy. He wasn't the quarterback that he usually is. So I'm willing to throw out the 2025 tape because like he was injured. So, and you go back to the 2024 tape. When I looked at his 2024 tape, I saw an NFL starting quarterback. But I mean, I understand we got to go off of, what we have in front of us and everything. But I think he's a lot better than the last tape that he put out there. So like, I think he's a lot better than the 80th player in this draft. And I think we're not going to realize that until maybe 2 or 3 years from now. But I think that I still think that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. It may not happen year one, may not happen year two, but I think that's what his upside is. And if he gets into the right place, I think he'll maximize his upside. So I'm a little bit higher on Garrett Nussmeier than consensus.
So if you had to call your shot on where Nussmeier gets drafted, EJ, like is it Arizona round 2?
No, I think he'll go in the 3rd round. It would be ideal place for him probably would be like the Rams or an offensive minded coach like the Rams, maybe the Vikings. So an offensive minded coach that knows what they're doing with their quarterbacks. But I think he goes in the 3rd round. If if it wasn't for the injury, if he was completely healthy this season, I'm pretty sure he probably would have went in the first round. But right now, I think he goes in the third, and we just hope that he goes to the right place where they can maximize his talents.
Christian, where do you have Nussmeier?
Yeah, I'm about where EJ's got. I've got him in. I've got a third round grade on him. I've got him in the 70s, probably 70s to 80s. But I'm kind of where EJ's at. Throw away the 2025 tape. It's the 24 tape is closer to what you're going to get at the next level. And he kind of saw that as he progressed through the pre-draft from the Senior Bowl to his session at the Combine. He looked healthy, comfortable, and looked like he was confident in his ability again.
So Pittsburgh, I think, is 3 round 3 picks. Right. So I think Pittsburgh's an obvious landing spot for a quarterback. Because like my son has asked me, like, what's Aaron Rodgers doing? And I'm like, I don't even know what Aaron Rodgers is doing. And it's we're 4 weeks from the draft. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in a cave.
I mean, Pittsburgh needs a quarterback.
Darkness retreat or ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christian, any other player that you are higher than consensus on?
Yeah, there's 3 kind of right around 90 to 100. Skylar Bell, I've got a top 60 on him. I think he's a day one starter. I've been saying the last couple of weeks, I think he runs the best slant route in the draft. And despite shaky quarterback play, he was nothing but productive at UConn. I think he's a day one start at the next level. 2 more that I'm a lot higher on. Bud Clark, ball hawking players on the back end. Safety Jacob Rodriguez falls into this boat as well. If you have a nose for the football, you're going to make an impact at the NFL level, i.e. Xavier Watts last year. Well, he's not a great athlete. I watch the tape. The tape doesn't lie. Watts was a really good pro and got a lot more flack than he should have. And he's become a phenomenal player as a rookie for the Falcons. And I think Bud Clark is gonna be in a similar mold. And then the third one, Chandler Rivers. I think he's a day one star in the slot. Tough, physical, can play the run, can cover all over the field. He's small, but drop him in the slot. I think he's got the ability to start right away.
So Christian, Keontae Scott or Chandler Rivers, who's your preferred slot corner?
Probably Rivers. I like Scott better. I've got Scott as a safety on my board, so I would probably go Chandler Rivers. I've gotten both grades, a pretty similar grade on him. I've got probably a late second to early third on both. But in terms of pure slot corner, I think Keontae's. I see some tightness in his lower half. That's going to affect his ability to change direction, especially when working side to side. But I love him coming downhill, and which lets him or helps him fit better as a safety rather than a pure slot.
Okay. EJ, do you have another player where you are higher than the consensus ranking for the player?
Through this whole cycle, I've been higher on those Georgia skill players than consensus, like Oscar Delp and Zachariah Branch. I think they were products of a less than spectacular quarterback play, and I think the way that offense was built kind of limited the explosive traits that they had. Because like usually I had a coach tell me one time, offensive coordinator tells you exactly what he thinks of his quarterback by the offense he builds around him. And the offense that Georgia built around their quarterback was quick, a lot of quick game, a lot of schemed up plays, nothing aggressive down the field because the quarterback just didn't have the arm for it. So you got players like Zachariah Branch who can get downfield. You got players like Oscar Delp who can get downfield, but they're kind of playing handcuffed because they can only run a certain amount of routes, and defenses know that by week 3, week 4, defensive knew exactly what they were trying to do. So they were kind of hamstrung, and I think they're both going to be much better pros than they were as college players. Oscar Delp, I think he's going to be like I think he gives you like the same rules that you give King and Sadiq, as far as let him go be an athlete, let him block on the move. Don't put him as an inline blocker. That's not where his talent is. Same rules apply to Oscar Delp. He gives you effort as a blocker. He's a good blocker. He's a willing blocker. 245 pounds, probably has the frame to add to 250, but you want to start him off as a move blocker. His real talent is his athleticism in space. So that's where you want to feature him at. So he could be a guy that you could see in a team that already has their blocking tight end and they want to play heavy 12 personnel. He can be like your big slot guy. He'll have success doing that. Zachariah Branch, I think he is more of a true wide receiver than people are giving him credit for. He runs routes. He can run the full route tree. He's a 3-level threat. I like my receivers that have run after the catch ability, and he definitely has that. He also gives you a kick return ability. He's not a big guy. So what you want to do is you want to run his routes out of the slot, out of bunch sets, out of stack formation, and all that. You want to give him a clean release. And when you give him a clean release, he also has the speed to get over the top of the defense. So this is a guy that can function as a deep threat. He can function as a run after the catch guy. And you go back to the USC tape. He is a guy that can work the intermediate level of the field too. He can snap off some digs and some curls and some crossers. So I think he's a guy that in the right system with the right weapons around him, he can be more of a 3-level threat than he has been at Georgia. So and when we've seen the athletic testing and all that, that's all there. So I think I'm a little bit higher than consensus on Zachariah Branch.
Yeah, so one more Georgia player to throw in there is Dylan Bell, wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Dylan Bell is probably like a very late day 3 or UDFA wide receiver, but he's going to be the type of wide receiver that does the things that you want a wide receiver 5 to do. He'll be able to play special teams and stuff like that. So Christian, who is the next player that you are higher than consensus?
I'll say Jalen Farmer. I was surprised to see him outside the top 100 on the consensus board. I think he's a day one starter. If he can just refine his technique, be more consistent with his sets, and not get as wide, he's going to be I think he's going to be a dominant guard potentially. He's got the mean streak, good with his good hand placement. When he's on time, his feet are quick. He can mirror. I really like Farmer. I think he's going to be a 2nd-round pick.
Okay. EJ, where are you on Jalen Farmer from Kentucky right now?
Love Jalen Farmer. He is a stud. When you watch him, you see the athleticism he has, you see the power that he has, and he always wins the leverage battle. So you can tell he's been coached up right. He's got the requisite size. He's like 6'3", something like that, 320. Easy mover in space. He has the athleticism to move easy in space. And he always gets his hands inside the chest. You control the chest, control the man, and he can move guys against their will. That's the first thing I look for when I look for my interior offensive lineman. Can you move bodies? And this guy moves bodies. It's not pure strength with him, but it's leverage. His pad level is always lower than the defensive player, and you see him consistently moving guys out of the way. So I'm a big Jalen Farmer guy.
And on paper, the only box that we didn't feel was checked prior to pre-draft was athleticism, and he goes out with a 1.75 10-yard split at the combine. So, I mean, as far as on paper goes, he's got every box checked.
Yeah, exactly. I would be talking about him right up there with Emmanuel Pregnon and all of them. He's that good. And to answer Kenny in the chat, talking about Zachariah Branch's ADOT, that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say they built a scheme around him that limited what he does well. Like when you look at this guy, usually when you see a guy has a low ADOT, either they have trouble tracking the ball down the field or they struggle catching the ball. He doesn't have either any one of those issues. But you got to go all the way back to the USC tape to see that. But it's just he's a product of his environment. That's why his ADOT was so low. That's the thing with him. He's just, I call him a product of his environment.
So, and Branch, when him and Makai Lemon were on the same team,
yep,
Lemon couldn't beat Branch out, yet everybody's talking about Lemon going higher in the draft, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, Jordan, it's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Who is a player that you are higher than consensus on?
Oh man, I have a few. One that I've been recently pretty much higher on than most of the consensus is Danny Dennis Sutton. I just think I don't think anyone talks about how many kicks he blocked in college, and it drives me up a wall. It's like his special teams ability is like blocking kicks is one of the most easily transferable skills as like a prospect. If you could do it in college, you could do it in the league. And so like I think as a special teams player, he's already got that part nailed down. But I also really like his upside as a rusher. I think that he is just like such a fun little ball to try and mold. There's still some things that obviously have to be worked on, but like in terms of just like the power, the speed, like having that athleticism there, but like already having the floor of the special teams to me just like puts him way higher on my board personally.
And how high do you have him? He is 67 on the consensus board.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not too much higher, I guess, but I'm like around 56, I believe is the number I had him at last time.
Okay.
A little bit higher, yeah. And then the other guy, I mean, everybody knows me at Draft Professors is like my dude is Barryon Brown. I have Barryon Brown as my wide receiver 9. I'm insane. I know it, but I love him. I just love him. And I still think he just hasn't had the quarterback that actually fits his skill set yet. I think he can be a deep flyer mover. Nussmeier just wasn't able to hit him because like he was coming off the injuries and that stuff. And then he had Devin Leary before that, who was even worse at hitting him. And it's like, if he just finds the quarterback that actually fits his skill set where he can go and be a burner, I think he could be so freaking good in this league. I think he's like going to be a better pro than he was a college player personally. And I see him like all the way down boards all the time. Like I have him a 4th round pick. That's just me.
So Barryon Brown on the consensus board is 257.
Yep.
Okay. So
Wow.
Barryon Brown, Dante Hall. Who's a funner?
Exactly. That's the mindset, right? Like that goes back to my Danny Dennis Sutton point. You already know what you have as a returner. The receiver can be unlocked later. And like I still think the receiver is good. So like that's my difference in consensus. Most people just look at him purely as a returner. I see him as a receiver. But like the thing is too, like you already get that great returner, and it's such a fun returning class in general. Like a lot of fun returners in this class.
Okay. So Christian or EJ, Barryon Brown, how high are they on your board? Is he on your board?
Not wide receiver 9. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Does he crack their top 20?
I wouldn't even say that. I maybe around 25. I would say probably at best maybe.
And Christian, that feels like consensus. And that's how high Jordan is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about him when he was at Kentucky.
Yeah. I mean, like he did crack my top 20. Like at Kentucky, he was like he was this athlete. He was just like this Lamborghini that no quarterback knew how to drive. So he was out there routing guys up and then just was standing there. Like he was out there getting cardio. But and I thought he was going to have his breakout season once he got to LSU and with Nussmeier, and then everything happened with Nussmeier, and then everything went to hell there. But like this guy, he's fast, he's quick, he's got good hips to run routes. He's got hands. And it's just that he's not the biggest guy in the world. I think he weighed in like 5'10", 180, something like that. Not the biggest guy in the world, but like somebody can plug and play him as your movement Z or your slot or something like that, and he's going to make plays for you. It may not be year one, but you get him in a system, like the guy can play. He has the athletic requirements to play the wide receiver position. So all he needs to do is get in the system and get acclimated to the NFL, and like I think he'll be a productive player.
Yeah, so as long as he doesn't go to Pittsburgh, he'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Baltimore. Like, don't let him go to Baltimore. I love Baltimore.
Keep him out of the AFC North.
No, but the funny thing is, what you're bringing up is like every year, like we do a deep dive on like Draft Nerds in terms of the Ravens prospects. So we'll go just deep into like their playing style. And so like when we drafted Devin Leary, I remember I was just sitting there the whole time, and like I just couldn't even watch Devin Leary. I was like, this guy's crazy. Like, who is this kid? This is the kid you need to draft. Like, what? And then like I'm just looking at him, and I like that's when I started starting my whole notes. I'm like, I know when this becomes available, I'm gonna be following the whole way around, and I'm gonna be there. Like I'm gonna be there. I might be the only Barryon Brown wide receiver 9 guy on the planet, including his own parents. But you know what? I'm living with it.
No, and ultimately that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
So I pride draft professors on everybody can have their own takes and they get vetted because you're very rarely on a podcast by yourself, right? Like, Christian, who's the next player that you're higher than consensus on?
I would go Rayshon Benny from a defensive lineman from Michigan. I've got a 75, between 75 and 90 on him. I think he's got the strength to hold the point of attack. He can hold his ground and anchor in the middle. I think he's scheme versatile. I think he can play a 3-4 end or 4-3 tackle. Just a physical, and coming from Michigan, their defensive linemen, where it's Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, go back, Brandon Graham, you name it. Michigan defensive linemen are physical, tough, gritty. And I think Benny right now, probably a rotational. I'm not sure how high his ceiling is, but if you're looking for a disruption on the interior, someone who's going to shed blocks, create disruption, and cause havoc in the middle, you could do a lot worse than Rayshon Benny.
Yeah, and Rayshon Benny is 139 on the consensus board. Defensive tackles listed ahead of him include Tim Keenan is immediately ahead of him, DeMonte Capehart, Chris McClellan. So if you had to compare Benny to those players, at least some of them, he's definitely more athletic, I think, than, for example, like McClellan or the first guy I mentioned, Keenan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love the Rayshon Benny call out. It's not the greatest defensive tackle class. So seeing him go close to the top 100 definitely would make sense for me. EJ, is there another player that you're higher than consensus on that you want to bring to everybody's attention?
Yes, he is currently rated on the consensus board at number 200. That is defensive tackle Nick Barrett from South Carolina. 6'3", 312 pounds. When I watched some tape of him, and like the play strength is there. The play, like, honestly, the only thing he really doesn't have, he doesn't have the pass rush ability. It's just that he doesn't have that. Like, he's got the quickness, he's got the strength. He doesn't have the hand usage, and he doesn't. And like, at South Carolina, they're taught play the run first, then play the pass. So it's been ingrained in him to read and react more than attack. But this guy, he's super strong. Can nobody move him against the run? He throws guys out of the way. He's a force against the run. So it leads me to believe that there is some pass rush ability in there, because he'll do a nice little push pull on an offensive lineman and get free and be clean, but he'll just destroy the running back instead of destroying the quarterback. So if he can just flip that switch, or somebody can get him to flip that switch at the next level, I think he can be a difference-making player. Like, he's a guy that at his baseline, he's a solid run stuffer. He's a guy that you'll see, oh, this team has an excellent defensive line, and he'll be one of those guys. He won't be one of the stars of the defensive line, but he'll be one of those excellent players that's a part of that defensive line, because he's a good run stuffer first and foremost. So I think immediately day one, he's in your defensive line rotation. He can play on first and second down, and he can stop the run. If he can develop the pass rush, now we're talking about an athlete that can rush the passer and stop the run. This guy's going to get paid at the next level. But I don't think he's the best. He's the 200th best player in this draft class. I think he's a little bit higher than that. But he's a guy, I think, like, nobody really talks about him. I could put him on my sleeper list. But I think he's a guy that's going to come in and he's going to make some noise in the NFL.
Jordan, you have another player that you're higher on than consensus.
Well, first off, I want to bring up something on that, is that I try to write, when I'm trying to write up a write-up for a player, like, really quickly, I always try to have like one sentence kind of be like my describer of like how I would put somebody in and like make sense of them, just if I was to give you an elevator pitch with one sentence. And like, I wrote with him that like linebacker's best friend, because like the thing was, it wasn't even about, like, you brought up all the rushing defense, which is absolutely there, but it's the plays where he's not even making the rushing move. He's just the one standing there and nobody can move him off of the field. So the linebacker comes behind him, goes like right through there. And like, that's what I noticed about him so much. And it's just like so fun to watch. I mean, this is a first rounder, but I'm still way higher on him than most people's boards. I have CJ Allen all the way up to 12. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I know that hasn't been a popular.
Not crazy.
I'm a firm believer. Like, so I know that the coverage isn't perfect, and I get that, and I get everybody that points that out. But what I watch of CJ Allen actually reminds me of an old CJ and CJ Mosley in some senses, where it's like maybe he's not as athletic as CJ Mosley was coming out, but he takes players before the snap happens and moves them to the right position. So like all of a sudden, this corner who probably would have gotten beat on a route, now he's 2 yards inside. And they all trust him to do this because they know that he's going to put them in the right spot. He moves his D linemen. He moves his corners. He moves his linebacker. Like everybody's a chess piece to CJ Allen. And it's like the most classic green dot guy I've seen in like years. And I think like one of the biggest problems I have with college linebacker, like I've been the biggest harper of like, I need a linebacker class. I need a linebacker class so bad. Thankfully, it finally came to me. But like I need that elite linebacker class. And my biggest problem with like how college does linebackers these days is it's so focused on less of the mental game and so much more focused on, hey, like you're a really good blitzer. Like what can I do to push you through this gap? What can I do to like make you not have to think as much versus like the old school linebackers who all had to think. And it like that's what propelled them to being way more ready in the league than most linebackers are today. Like it's taking linebackers a few more years to get accumulated. I don't think it will take any time with CJ Allen. I think he'll be ready right away.
Yeah. You know, and we were discussing this on a podcast yesterday about linebackers specifically.
Yeah.
So like one of the examples that was given was linebackers in college don't backpedal that much.
Yeah.
They're going to be asked to backpedal in the NFL significantly more than they do in college. So linebacker is a position where what a player does in college and what they're asked to do in the NFL is not always the same.
No.
So it's difficult to project. And there's a reason why linebackers don't frequently go on day 1 or 2, because that projection is difficult. And you're better off, like if you have to choose, do I spend $15 million on a free agent linebacker or take a shot on a player like Stunny Styles in the draft? You're actually better off paying the free agent $15 million.
Yeah, and the thing about linebacker, and the thing about linebacker is it's so hard to evaluate how good somebody's instincts are.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you watch. It's like they're like the quarterback of the defense because they have to read the front. They have to anticipate where the play is going before it actually goes there, and then they have to actually have the athletic ability to actually get to that spot. So it's really. You really got to have a lot of things going on to be a really successful linebacker. But the first thing you really need is the instincts. You need the instincts, the processing ability. Like they talk about quarterbacks being quick processors. Linebackers have to be quick processors too. So that's why guys like I always learn this lesson with TJ Edwards coming out of I think he came out of Wisconsin or Nebraska. He is not an NFL caliber athlete. Not at all. He ran like a 4.8, 4.7, so like big, like 6'1", 230, not an NFL caliber athlete. But his instincts are beyond NFL caliber. He knew exactly where the play was going. He was quick to diagnose. So that 4.8 turned into 4.5. Yep. That's when I learned like instincts matter so much more than the physical ability of the linebacker. So that's like that. And that's hard to gauge too. So, but that's the challenge with it.
Yeah. And one more note on CJ Allen, if I may, real quick.
Go for it.
I think you could argue he's the defensive version of Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah,
he makes everybody around him better, and he wins up here. He is so instinctual, so smart. He knows what's coming, what the offense is gonna run before they execute the play. And I wrote in my first big board of the year, between his processing range and the number 3 jersey on Georgia's defense, I can't help but get Roquan Smith vibes. And between leadership, instincts, and just his overall IQ, that's a day one green dot leader of a defense. I had it in my mock draft I just dropped today. I had him going to Buffalo. Talk about flipping the script on with their defensive woes. CJ Allen would fix that.
Yep. So Anthony, this is why, like when I responded to Anthony in the chat, but I'll bring the comment up. The combine shouldn't be moving players up your board. And it's this exact situation that we're talking about with the linebackers. So my example of linebackers without instinct is Tremaine Edmonds, and with instinct is Terrell Bernard. So if you look at athletic testing and you look at RAS scores and all that, Edmonds, there's a reason that Buffalo traded up to get it. Right? So everybody knows, Buffalo drafted Josh Allen a few picks before in that draft. Well, Buffalo had a second first-round pick in that draft, and they traded that first-round pick up to get Edmonds. Okay? But Edmonds, like, he had the athletic ability to be very rangy, but he never had an interception in 5 years in Buffalo. Not one. Like, to the best of my knowledge, not one. And it was funny because, like, as soon as he signed with Chicago, he had a pick 6. We're like, we never saw that, right? But then Terrell Bernard replaced him, and Bernard is all instinct. I mean, he has some athletic ability, but he isn't the athlete that Edmonds is. And the instincts of Bernard were noticeable to the performance of the defense. So, Jordan, is there another player that you are higher than consensus on?
I mean, there's definitely quite a few. I feel like I move all the way around my board. I mean, it depends on where people have them, obviously. Like, that throws my mind off. I mean, I do have, and I know that there's a lot of draft professors who are in similar boats with it, but I just talked about how I have Barry Brown, wide receiver 9. I think that did actually change down to 11 when I finished my prospect, but still, like, way higher than everybody would have him.
Yeah.
But I have Ted Hurst at wide receiver 6. And I love Ted Hurst, man. I know the drops exist to an example, and I know that exists. But, like, a big thing to me is, like, I think he's, like, one of those players where, like, when he gets quarterback play that's going to be better, I think those drops become a little bit less. Now, I think that's always going to be something there. But at the same time, like, I look at this wide receiver class, and it's so funny to me. Because, like, I sit there, and I was explaining this to somebody the other day where it's like, there are so many tall, and this goes back to my Mekhi Lemon point too, where that's why I have him as wide receiver 1. There's so many big wide receivers in this class, in my opinion, who don't play big, and that's not always like they don't always have the opportunities to play big, right? It's just like an unknown. Like, can they play big? I don't know, but like so many wide receivers in this class don't actually know how to use their size to their advantage. So everybody just looks at a 6'4" wide receiver and they're like, yeah, that's the guy. Ted Hurst isn't that. Ted Hurst uses his size all the freaking time. Like, it's like ingrained in his head to use his size. And, like, to me, he just feels like this guy that, like, to me, I'm second round guy. Hey, 11 to 9 there. But it's like, I have a second round grade on Ted Hurst. And, like, I really think that guy's a stud in the right environment. He's going to do some incredible things. I just think, like, his positional balance, if that makes sense, like when he's balancing in the air and then the way he moves down, it's not even necessarily how his feet touch the ground, but it's how he lands safely, like every single time. Even if he's diving, he lands like in a perfectly safe type place. I just freaking love him. I think he's awesome.
Okay, so I think Hank is the leader of the Ted Hurst train. Right. But Jordan, it sounds like you're not that far behind Hank.
I'm not the caboose. I'm just one of the third train cars coming in with.
But I love doing podcasts like this. We're going all over the board. We're talking about players at all different positions. EJ, do you have another player that you're higher than consensus on?
Yeah, so I did. I'm working on this draft guide, and I'm doing wide receivers. And I ran through them. I wrote my notes and all of that, and I put my grades in, and I went through it today, to stack them all up, and I came out with Casey Concepcion as my wide receiver 3.
Oh,
and and I'm not changing it. I can't, and I'm not coming off of it. There in this class, there are a few very small few guys that are natural separators and 3-level threats. and Casey Concepcion is one of them. Like, he's got the burst to get deep.
Mm-hmm.
He can route you up. He can route you up 6 ways to Sunday. And he can run with the ball in his hands. Like, this guy is a weapon. I know about the drops. I don't care. I think this guy, if he drops one ball a game and catches 5 for 75 yards, I'm good. I'll take that. I'll take that all day. But like, you know, he's a smaller guy, 6 foot, like around the 190 range or something like that. But, you know, like, the speed, the route running, that's really what gets me, the route running ability. He is a natural route runner, a natural separator. You see the twitch and the explosiveness in and out of his breaks. Corners are going to have trouble sticking with that, especially if he's not the main weapon on the field. If he's like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, guys are going to have trouble with him. And all else fails, make him a kick returner. So this is a guy, I think he's a true weapon. Got to see how it is with the knee and the meniscus and all of that. But I think this guy is a real weapon at the wide receiver position. I got him.
So let's talk about Casey Concepcion for a little bit, because I hear a lot of this in Bill's circles. So shout out to Joe Marino, who on Bill's squad today is basically saying, like, how can Casey Concepcion drop to pick? I've already forgotten. I guess Buffalo's picked 26.
Mm-hmm.
How could Casey Concepcion drop to 26? He says the player is too good.
Yep.
He looks at, like, every mock draft simulator. Concepcion's available, including at the Draft Professor, when he's available at the Bills pick most of the time, right? People aren't picking him high. But Joe is looking at him like really how you described him. Randall has Casey Concepcion as wide receiver 2. Right? Yeah. So there's a lot of people with Concepcion that high. Christian, how high are you on Casey Concepcion?
So this kind of leads into what I was going to talk about next. I'm conflicted with this receiver draft because I've got Concepcion at 31, but he's my wide receiver 6.
Okay. So
I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. I like him, but I mean, I like the other receivers, Tate, Lemon, Boston, Tyson, Cooper more. But I think there's a bit of a drop to the next group, and I've got 11 different players, and I think you could rank them in any order you wanted. And some of them are Jeremy Bernard, Chris Bell, Malachi Fields, Skylar Bell, Ted Hurst is in this group, Antonio Williams, Deion Burke, Zachariah Branch, Bryce Lance, Chris Brazel, and Chase Roberts. I think you can organize them however you want, and that it would be justifiable. But back to Concepcion, there is some risk with the drops, but you get him a runway, you get the ball in his hands. I think he's a high floor type of prospect. Mm-hmm. And if I had to put money on it, I think he's more likely he plays down to his floor than maybe up to his ceiling. That's probably where I have him out just outside of the top 30, because I don't know if his ceiling is even as high as a Denzel Boston or Omar Cooper.
Well, and something that should be pointed out for drops, and EJ, this is a player, well, actually, Christian, you're an Eagles fan too, so it's a player we have in common, and that's Terrell Owens. Yeah. Terrell Owens was an awesome wide receiver, but Terrell Owens also led the league in drops when he was leading the league in receiving. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, there are good wide receivers where drops are just a thing, but Jordan, where are you on Casey Concepcion?
Yeah, he's my wide receiver 5. I'm kind of in like the middle of the pack. I'm almost with consensus, to be honest, on this one. Yeah. I like him a lot. For me, and I hate saying like situation with all of this, but as you'll see with most of my board, like in the way I am, I value special teams way higher than most people do. So like if I see good special teams, that player is probably going to look a lot higher on my board than most people.
Especially with the rule changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just like the thing is too, it's like, I look at guys like Casey Concepcion, and like I said, the floor is already there, and like the drops exist, right? And like I don't think anyone could turn that off. It's just a matter of where you end up, Because if you end up in a run heavy scheme where you're not going to get as many targets, those drops really start to show. But if you're in a pass heavy offense, if you're somewhere where you're getting like 7 targets, 6 targets, then like one drop's not going to affect what those 6 targets look like. But if you're getting 3 targets and you're dropping 1, then it's going to be really different.
So again, a receiver that shouldn't go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, or Baltimore.
I'm noticing a trend. He has to go where there's a quarterback, there's going to be volume. I'm noticing that. That's actually, you know something, that's actually a really good point. Because if you put a receiver that's going to have some drop questions, you want him in a spot where he's going to get volume.
Yeah.
Because if he makes, like, if you only get 4 targets a game, like Keon Coleman will get 3 or 4 targets a game. But if he drops 2 of them, he looks really bad on the stat sheet, right? Whereas if he was fed 6 or 8 and he only dropped 2, that's going to look way different.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, I think that's a really good point. I hadn't really thought of that till you brought that up, Jordan.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the 2 that you do, if you do have drop issues, the 2 that you do catch better be for like 20 plus yards. Like, you better be making an impact with the balls that you are catching. And like, another thing, to Jordan's point, with special teams, like, as evaluators, pick the guy that plays special teams, because guys that play special teams make the final 53. Like, say like, if you looking at bottom of the draft guys and you don't know whether they're gonna make it or whether they're gonna last on a team, guys that play special teams, like, you making out your sleepers and all of that, guys that play special teams, they make the team, and then those are the guys that work their way up the depth chart.
100%.
Like coaches love those special teams guys.
Well,
I've heard Brandon Beane say something similar in post-draft press conferences.
I think something too with wide receivers that doesn't get talked about enough, and this goes for wide receivers and corners more than it goes for any position, probably not named quarterback, is that, and this is what it comes down with drops too, is like, it is a confidence position. Everything comes to your confidence. So if you're getting 4 targets a game and you drop 2 of them and your confidence gets shot, look at Marvin Harrison. Like, Marvin Harrison Jr., I still believe in Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think, like, I still think that kid has unbridled potential, but right now in his own head, like, he needs sports psychology. Like, he needs somebody to, like, actually sit him down and be like, you're not this. Like, you are Marvin Harrison Jr. Yep. And, like, that's really just, like, something that sticks out to me. Because, like, when you don't get a lot of targets, especially in your rookie year, like, you need to let these guys feast when they're starting to, like, get that broad. I don't blame Harrison. I blame Kyler. They're just not a good fit together. I think both could be.
Well, and they're not together anymore, so I guess that works out.
Wide receivers with drop issues are 3-point shooters in basketball. When they got their confidence high, they catch everything. But when when shooters are in a slump, they can go ice cold for an extended amount of time until they see that ball go back in the hoop and get their confidence back.
Right. And I mean, this is Jordan, you're describing with the whole drop thing. You are describing Keon Coleman in Buffalo to a T.
And I like
right. There will be like teams will be like pressing Buffalo. He's singled up on the outside. So it's, it's a sight read. Like, Josh Allen throws the ball and Keon's not even looking for it. Right. And then he might find it late and it might, like, hit him in the back of the helmet or hit his hand or whatever. Or he'll, it's scramble drill in the red zone. Coleman gets a hand on it, but it falls incomplete. Those drops look really big because we had to go settle for, it became a 4-point play, right? We had to settle for a field goal or whatever, right? We didn't score the touchdown. It looks really big. So if your next catch is only for 7 yards, you haven't really atoned for the drop. So I'm completely there with you. Okay. EJ, do you have another player that you are higher than consensus on?
I want to go to the safety position. Jalen Kilgore. Y'all know I love Jalen Kilgore. I've been talking about him this whole process. 6 foot 210 out of South Carolina. We saw him play as a nickel defender. He can play as a safety too. I like him at the NFL level. I like him in a too high defense where he can, if you get him next to another safety, like they can mirror. If get him next to like a free safety type of guy, they can mirror skill sets. So the offense going in motion doesn't matter at all. So say if you send your tight end in motion to the field side and your free safety has to come down and play man coverage, and then you motion your tight end over back to the boundary side. Now your Kilgore is your strong safety. He can come down and play man coverage. So now, like, it doesn't matter what you do on offense. I got two guys that can handle themselves in man coverage. Now, I don't want him in man coverage all the time. I like to use him as a weapon. I like him close to the line of scrimmage. I want to use him in some simulated pressures. I want to use him as a blitzer, but he still has the ability to get over top and handle his cover duties over top. So I think he's a versatile safety. He's a guy that you can do a lot of stuff with. Guys like that. And he has the athletic traits as well. So guys like that, you know, he may go in the third round. I think I wouldn't mind taking him in the second round, but you know, he's a player. He's a guy that can wear a lot of hats on defense, and that's what they ask your safeties to do nowadays. They ask you to wear a lot of hats, but he's a guy that can wear a lot of hats, and he's a guy that brings the physicality. He's a tone setter on that defense. So like he's a guy that I'm higher on. So like with him, I'm looking at, you know, Downs and Thieneman are the tier 1. I got Kilgore and guys like Bud Clark in tier 2 right below them. Like those are guys that I'm high on at the safety position.
Okay, so Kilgore is 86 on the consensus board. Jordan, where do you have Jalen Kilgore?
Mine's around there. I'm not, you know, it's really funny because there was somebody like Kilgore a few draft classes ago that I adored. And it's Jaden Hicks coming out of Kansas City. And like just that hard hitting set the tone, probably going to be a little too physical and you're going to have to work a little bit with that, like in the next level. But I do like Jalen Kilgore a lot. I just think like for me, especially like, and I love Bud Clark, by the way. I'm glad you brought up Bud Clark as well. But like the safety group past the top 3 guys for me, like the top 3 that everybody's talking about, it kind of is like all jumbled together for me. It's like all of those guys are very close on my board to each other. You brought up Bud Clark, you brought up Kilgore. Another one I have is Genesis Smith around that era as well. I love Genesis Smith a lot. But like I like Kilgore in terms of like exactly what you're saying too. The high missed tackles is a little worrisome for me. That's like the only thing. But I also think when you play with that physical twitch, when like you're looking to just knock somebody out, you're gonna have a few missed tackles here and there.
Yep. So Christian, where are you on Kilgore, and who is your next player that you're higher on than consensus?
So Kilgore's one of the, I like him, but he's also one of the first players that I left off my top 100. And I feel like, I think the gap from player 5 to player 20 is a lot larger than the gap from player 21 to player 75. I think this is not a great draft at the top, but in second, third, and even in the 4th round, early day 3, you're going to get some dudes. And I think Kilgore kind of falls in that late day 2, early day 3 for me, but I would not mind taking him on day 2 at all. And then lead into my next player, and he's someone I mentioned in my second bucket of wide receivers, Chase Roberts from BYU. I think he's a big slot receiver. I would be another player. One of the last players or one of the first players I left out of my top 100, but his measurables compared to Cooper Kupp, who he reminds me a lot of. Roberts, 6'3", 209, 9 3/4 hand, 31.5 arm, 10.6 broad, 37 vertical, 4.6 440. Cooper Kupp, 6'1", 6'8", 204, 9.5 hand, 31.5 arm, 9.8 on the broad, 31-inch vert, and a 4.6 240. So Roberts is a little more explosive, but everything is right in line with Cooper Kupp. And when I watched one of those Texas Tech games, it was the first time I got exposed to him, and the name that jumped out to me was Cooper Kupp. He's got that suddenness to him. ability to just break off and pose his will in the slot against smaller corners and make himself and his catch radius just make it bigger and overwhelming to defenders.
Okay, did not know that Kilgore had 1230 visits. So Andre dropping some knowledge there, Andre. That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
One of them in Philly.
Yep. So I was actually going to ask, because I think Philly needs another safety, right? Because they just traded Sidney Brown,
yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah. Kilgore is
what
scheduled to meet. I don't know if he came or not.
I just knowing what they lost in Blankenship and knowing the type of player Makuba is, I would like someone who's a little better tackler. Someone like a Zakee Wheatley is someone who I would like, but honestly, the things I'm seeing, I would not be shocked if Michael Carter rolls out as their starting safety next year.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think the plan is like, because with Howie Roseman, he wants to make his team draft proof. So he wants to be able. This is what he said. He said he wants to be able to start a game before the draft. So if he has a roster that can play a NFL game right now, this is what they're trying to do. They want a roster that can play an NFL game right now, so that way they don't go into the draft desperate to feel a need or something like that. So like right now, probably it looks like Michael Carter is the guy, but yeah,
Marcus
I would think.
Epps.
I mean, yeah, or Marcus Epps.
Fangio loves Marcus Epps. Fangio loves Marcus.
Yes, he does. Yeah, and Marcus Epps has been good for us. So but I still think they address it in the draft. And which leads me to another guy that I'm higher on the consensus, Trayton Stukes. I mean, I think everybody's coming around on Trayton Stukes now, but this guy can play slot corner. This guy can play safety. He has all the measurables. I'm not 100% sure he can't play outside corner, but I like this guy as a defensive back. If the Eagles were to draft him, I would be absolutely fine with it. This guy has range. This guy has ball skills. Guy has anticipation. He's physical. But this is a guy that another guy can wear all the hats on a defense. So he can do a whole lot. If you want him to cover your smaller, shiftier slot corners, he can do that. You want him to cover your tight ends in the slot, he can do that. But this is a guy that wears a lot of hats on the defense, and I think he fits in well into pretty much any defensive scheme.
Yep. And I like the call out here on Trayton Stukes because, like you pointed out, and when we covered him for scouting reports, is he a corner? Is he a slot? Is he a safety? As you pointed out, he's going to fit every scheme because if you need a safety, you could try him there. Now, one of the reasons he didn't play safety, he's on the same team as Genesis Smith. Yeah. And I don't think we want to see Genesis Smith play the slot or the boundary, right? Right. So he's kind of limited, because of some of his teammates, he was limited to where he could play for his team, but we see the positional flexibility. Jordan, what do you think is Stukes' best position and what's his draft range for you?
This is always the hardest one for me, is figuring out what corners should move to safety. That has always been one that perplexes me, and every single time. Every time I think it's somebody, the only one that's been really easy for me, especially a safety position, to be yeah, that guy should not be playing safety, was Jalen Carley's. I was that guy should not be playing safety. That guy is way too big. He should not be there. But for the most part, I'm rough at it. I think he's more I want him around the ball. I'd like him around more in the slot area. But I think to your point, you can kind of move him around based off of what your need is. And I think that he's a really interesting player. It's so funny because I was doing a write-up on him a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking at this one website because I was reading some stuff that they wrote on him, and they had him listed at 6'4". I'm what? And I had to go back, and I'm wait, what? And so I had him, and I even checked my combine notes. I'm wait. My guy.
So let's take this question here from Anthony, because Anthony, I think we're saying the opposite. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know their permanent position, but they can play more than one, that's really good if you're a defensive back. I call it the Jordan Hancock factor, right? And then somebody even put Lorenzo Styles into the chat, I think, right? There's going to be some players where you don't know their position, but you can tell that you're going to be able to find a spot for them, right? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's such a difference though, and there's like one thing that I always try to tell people with this, and this is why I was always lower on Isaiah Simmons. I remember I'd be in arguments all day long about Isaiah Simmons. The difference has to be that I know you can play one. If you can play one of the positions versus they're moving you around because they spot for you.
Okay,
on Stoops,
right, but there's also a difference to me if it's corner, slot, safety,
exactly,
versus safety or linebacker.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the safety linebacker tweener.
Yeah, no,
that's dangerous. But if you're playing boundary, slot, or safety, I think that you have more flexibility than are you a linebacker or are you a safety?
Yeah,
right. Christian, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like Cooper DeJean kind of overlaps in this bucket with how the Eagles cornerback situation play out this year, where he was playing outside corner and base. But then when Quinyon Mitchell has his hammy injury, they did a little test run with DeJean outside corner permanently, and it didn't work out near as well. But he got that fallback option that he's the best slot corner in the league, arguably. So even if he's not at the same level at the outside, he's still a dominant slot defender, and that same concept applies to defensive backs in particular.
Yep, and Buffalo would do the same thing with Teron Johnson. So Teron Johnson played slot, but there were times that some of the boundary corners got injured. So they would leave Johnson on in some of the goal line packages as the boundary corner, but they would still bring in the heavy personnel, for the linebackers and the defensive line. So if you can play more than one position in the defensive backfield, I think it makes you more valuable for two reasons. If you're not a starter, that's really valuable. So for Jordan Hancock to be able to play three different positions in the defensive backfield, it's really valuable. Cam Lewis was a player for Buffalo that played every defensive back position. He just signed as a free agent with somebody. I don't remember who signed him, but I looked and said, okay, they're setting the floor for their defensive back room. You don't know if he's going to be a slot or a safety or a boundary, but he's going to play special teams, and that if you have an injury, he's going to be able to fill in for it.
And on top of that, the formation of choice for most, if not all, defensive coordinators in the NFL is not base. It's their it's the nickel, exactly. 5 defensive backs. Mm-hmm. And they're probably their number 2 formation, 6 defensive backs. So the secondary is becoming a much more crucial, and the versatility, not just numbers in itself, but the versatility to be able to align in a variety of different positions. It's becoming a much bigger part of defensive schematics in today's NFL.
Yep. So one player I'm curious where all of you are and where he is on the consensus board is Maryland safety Jalen Husky. So Husky, I'm looking for where he is on the consensus board.
Let's see, where is he at? I didn't even see him on there.
So he is 256 on the consensus board.
Good Lord.
So Christian, where is Jalen Husky from Maryland on your board?
He's higher than that. I can tell you that much. That's he's
top 100.
He's close. He's again in that bucket of very close, just didn't quite make the cut. But again, he's kind of in the similar position, like a Bud Clark, Xavier Watts last year. Give me players who find the football. Husky's always going to be near the ball. Good athlete. He's really good with his eyes and coverage, able to identify routes and cover them accordingly. And he's wherever the football is, he's going to find it. So after I sit down and physically crunch everything out and finish my final top 100, he might make it. But when I just did my little rough 100 for this show, he was one of the probably 15 players that were down to my final choices.
Okay. Jordan, how about you? Jalen Husky, safety from Maryland. Where is he on your board, and what are your thoughts?
So I think he's around my safety 11 or 12. I'm in that range with him, but it's actually close to what EJ was saying about Kilgore, but it's the opposite. He needs a strong safety to play And then if he has somebody where he doesn't have to be as heavy in run support, he could just stay back there and roam. He's going to be real dangerous. He's going to be fun. Like, I think of him like, and I hate bringing it into a Baltimore example. And like, I think he could be a better player than this. But that 1 year where Geno Stone just got a ton of picks, like that's how I feel that he can be if he's used in the right situation, where the other two safeties are kind of lined up more towards the wideness. They're more on the focused of the coverage, where he's more focused on his natural instincts to just play ball, get ball. And like playing him deep is what I want to see him do in the league. And I think like he could be really interesting, but he has to land in the right spot. Because if like you start on pursuits, I'm not as high.
So speaking from a team who just signed Geno Stone,
Yeah.
I would love to see Jalen Husky round 4 or round 5.
Yeah.
Like I would love that pick. Yeah. So we're talking, Jordan. Absolutely. EJ, you got another player that you're higher than consensus on.
Yeah, last guy I got, he's number 242 on the board, and they got the audacity not even to put him at the right position. Wesley Williams from Duke. He's an edge rusher. They got him in the defensive tackle category. He's 6'4", 256 pounds. He's got no business being 242. I think this guy, I think he's the better Duke edge defender. They got the other guy rated a little bit higher, but I think he's the better player. Like the play strength, the effort, the motor this guy plays with is going to get him on a final 53 right from the rip. He's a guy. He's a 2-down right now. As he is right now, he's a 2-down defensive lineman. You want to put him in possibly out. You want to put him on some. You can play him in some odd fronts as a 4-eye. He has the play strength to take on the on guards. But if you want to play him in the even front, he's a 2-down edge rusher. He sets the edge very well, plays against the run. He's got strong and violent hands. So he's like you have it's like you stick your hand in a fan and you're going to get your hand tore up. That's Wesley Williams. He's got the violent hands that's really going to tear somebody up once they try to get in close to him into his chest. He's a guy of relentless pursuit. He's a guy that's going to have a lot of second effort sacks, to where if the coverage is good on the back end, he's going to be the guy that sheds the blocker and then gets that cleanup sack. But like, you like the effort, you like the motor, you like the play strength. This is another guy that's going to fit right into your defensive line rotation. I think of him as more of a like a 4th or 5th round pick. I've seen some UDFA grades on him. I think certainly this guy's going to get drafted.
Yeah, and we've been talking about Wesley Williams. Duke has 2 edges that are in the draft. I believe Williams is the higher ranked. I think Vincent Anthony is the other one. But yeah, I would definitely second. I think Wesley Williams is very draftable.
On that same note of players assigned at the wrong position, no wonder I didn't see Jalen Husky. He's assigned as a corner on the consensus board.
And the other thing too, like this is something I've been going back with on like, and this is kind of why Wesley Williams is intriguing to me, is because the edges in general on day 3 aren't as intriguing to me as a whole. So like when I see a guy who just has one trait that sticks out, and like with you, it's effort, but it's like, and I'm not even talking about the cleanup stacks effort. Like I'll see him run as fast as he can to try and get a wide receiver. And to me, that always sticks out. That is always something that sticks out to me, because I'm like, I'll never have to ask you to try. You already have it.
Yep. And he knows he doesn't have a chance in hell of catching that wide receiver, but he's still 100%.
But like, what if he cuts back 20 yards for some reason? Wesley Williams will be there.
And that's exactly who you want on your kickoff cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, if you're edge 4, edge 5, you're going to be covering kicks. That's exactly what you want.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, Christian, do you have another player that you're higher than consensus on?
Yeah, he's outside the top 50 on the consensus board. I've got him at number 33, and that's my guy, D'Angelo Pons. I know he's small. I don't care. I don't care. If you ask, even against that tough Miami team, I think you could argue D'Angelo Pons play like the biggest player on the field, including the offensive lineman for Miami. And he's been playing with this chip on his shoulder his entire life. This is nothing new to him. Jane was high school, Pee Wee League, James Madison, Indiana. He's been the smallest player on the field his entire life, and you can tell he knows how to compensate for that. Was it his hand size? How am I? Let me pull this. His hands are incredibly.
He's got mitts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and he had an impeccable timing to get his arms lodged in the chest of receivers to disrupt the catch process. And once he does if he is able to be in position to get his hands on the ball, his mitts, as Jordan so wisely put it, he completes those playmaking opportunities and gets turnovers. I think Pons is going to be immediately a top slot defender in the league.
I mean, I got a corner after this to talk about, but I want to
go for it, Jordan.
First, let me talk about D'Angelo Pons for a second. I was sitting there when I was actually making my corner rankings, my original corner rankings. It's I do my rankings first before I fully do my big board. And then I was looking at it and I was realizing that while I was making the board, I was watching D'Angelo Pons tape just in the background because I love watching him play. I think his tape is my favorite tape to watch. I don't know if everything translates, but I have him at 32, so I'm very close with you. You have him at 33, I have him at 32. Mm-hmm. I think that when I watch him, and this is what I was saying earlier, because I was trying to put all those corners, and so many great round 2 corners in this class, but it's when I was watching him, and I think he could be around 1 corner, in my opinion. Obviously, that's why he's top 32 for me. But it's the thing is, when I watch him, I literally sat there for a second. I'm if the only things that I have that can hold you back is related to your size, then I'm not doing my job as an evaluator. I'm ignoring everything else that I'm watching. And I go back to watching him on Denzel Boston. Denzel Boston should be the guy that makes D'Angelo Pons look punked. Nope. It was the opposite.
Other way around.
Pons was the guy who was Denzel Boston, you're not on this level. And I like Denzel Boston. I just sit there. I'm that whole tape was literally just teach tape on how a shorter guy could play a taller guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it would not shock me at all if Pons goes on and thrives on the outside. It would not shock me at all.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about D'Angelo Pons is you already know he's small coming into the film, but the more and more you watch the film, the more and more I don't care that he's small. It doesn't matter because nobody told him he's small because he's playing he's 6'5". He played and the thing is I'm 100% on board with him playing on the outside. He can play on the outside. If Isaiah Rodgers can play on the outside, he can play on the outside. Yeah. But what you want to do with him is you want to play him in off man. You want him reacting to what's in front of him. Don't put him face to face with bigger receivers where they can go moss him, but let him trigger downhill, let him get his momentum up. That's what he did to Denzel Boston. That's what he did to Denzel Boston. He was coming from top down, and that's where you really saw him being disruptive at the catch point. He was using his speed, his quickness, his anticipation. He was using put him to his strengths. You put him in off man, you put him in zone, and let him react to what's in front of him, and then just carry the deep routes. He's going to be absolutely fine. I have no issues with his size whatsoever playing on the outside. He's going to when you draft him, you're already making the decision that he's going to get mossed a couple of times because he's short. And you're just saying, I don't care because the good is going to always outweigh the bad with this guy. And that's the thing with D'Angelo Pons. He's smaller. He's going to miss some tackles. He's going to, his size is going to limit him, but his good is always going to outweigh his bad.
Jordan, you have your last cornerback before we close up shop.
Yeah, I have a million players, by the way. I could have went into day 3 guys that nobody probably wants to talk about. But one guy that I think has just been lost in this process, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out, is Devon Marshall out of NC State. That kid is a freaking stud, and he has games. He has games where he just takes over an entire football field. It's nobody else is around him. It's just game. Yeah, that was the game I was actually going to bring up. Yeah, it's just man, he's got the long speed. He's got the short speed, his quickness. He does get a little grabby at times. That is one thing I've noticed with him, especially like everybody keeps posting the All-Star game highlight. I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to be called in the league. But, you know, like at the same time, though, like when I watch him on tape, though, I'm like, you forced 24 incompletions in 2 years. Like, you're out here batting balls. You're out here doing like insane stuff. I don't think anybody's talked about him enough, and it's partially because of how great this corner class is. But I think that guy's going to be freaking awesome. I think he's coming in around 5'10"-ish, and like he'll probably play a little bit of slot, but I think he can play outside too. I just think he's like one of those guys that like you can mold in almost any defense, and he'd be pretty good at it. Like he's one of those guys that just feels like it translates, regardless, because of the things he does, and at bare minimum, once again, has special teams type ability where it's like you see him recover, and when he recovers, it's great. And like that's what I look for in corners. It's like I love watching corners get beat. It's my favorite thing, actually, because it's like, okay, now how do you adjust? What are you going to do with your body contortion? And you'll watch him, and like I said, sometimes he's a little grabby, and you'll see him get a little grabby at times. But he'll run, and and he's got good run defense, in my opinion. Like, I just think he's one of those classic master of no traits, but really good at every trait. Really good at every trait, just like has the whole toolbox, but he doesn't come in with a drill that has 55 bits in it. And, you know, it's great to me.
You know, EJ, you mentioned Isaiah Rogers earlier with Pons. That's the comp for Marshall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's the comp.
I see it. Yep.
So with Marshall, this is Devon Marshall, corner from NC State.
Yep.
Ryan Maffey, who podcasts with draft professors on Sunday nights, has Marshall in his top 10 corners.
I love it. Love it.
Outrageous.
So, but you are right, because, you know, we've done a lot of cornerback shows on this channel, and he's not making the top 15 for a vast majority of the draft professors. So I like, that's why we do these podcasts, everybody. And that's why we have multiple people, because the more people we have, we're going to be able to bring you more names. The key is you just have to watch every single show so you can figure out who's higher and lower on different people. But, you know, I love doing shows like this. But why don't we pause for podcaster identification? So, Jordan, it's great that you are the only Jordan on this podcast so that we know, like, so the last time it was funny. I was texting Jordan in my phone thinking I was messaging a different Jordan, and then two Jordans showed up for the same podcast. Probably not my finest hour as a draft professor, but everything worked out smoothly. But Jordan, you want to let everybody know about all of the draft content you make and why your name won't fit in your Twitter handle.
Hey, so first off, all professors eventually had a C in their life, right? And like it happens. So it happens, goes on. The thing is, my name is Jordan. My name won't fit. My name literally won't fit in the Twitter limit, which is why it's my name won't fit. So I'm with Draft Nerds. You can find our podcast. We try to do weekly. Our co-host came down a little sick this week, but we should be back up soon. But yeah, you can find me in Jordan Sport Guy on Twitter. Always talking the draft, always talking NFL, a little bit of baseball here and there because it's opening day. But mostly you'll find me talk about the NFL draft. Somebody owes me $20 because I showed a clip of Arvo Reese bending, but that's pretty much it.
That wasn't you saw the tweet. That wasn't your tweet, right? Because I saw that same tweet come through my feed.
No, I was the one who posted Newt's clip of him doing a bend move because I remembered that bend move. And I'm like, I bet I could find this Twitter clip so fast if I looked for it. And I did. And I was like, please send me my $20. Have not received my $20. I will update it.
Yeah. So somebody posted to Twitter that they want to see Arvell Reese show bend, and he'll Venmo them $20.
If he saw one clip of him doing a bend move, one bend and pass rush.
And Jordan quote tweeted it because he was using a clip from Newt to prove that it existed. So draft professors hooking up other draft professors. I love seeing it. EJ, do you want to let everybody know about all of the draft content that you make?
Yeah. I got a draft guy coming with Rogue Analytics coming in a couple of weeks. I'm doing running backs and wide receivers. You can catch me every Thursday here on the Mrs. Irrelevant podcast. You can catch me on my Twitter feed. My Twitter handle right there on the bottom corner. Pretty much with my Twitter handle, all you getting is film-based opinions, no hot takes, no clickbait, no rage bait, and pretty much, everything's all on film. Pretty much all going through all the draft content now. Coming in May, I'm going right back into summer scouting, so I'll have even more draft content there. So, and as usual, I will never ever say the word generational.
And it sounds like you're going to have some problems. Like, well, no, you're not going to have problems. You may have some takes on other people calling specific prospects generational. I've already seen that word thrown out for like 5 different players in 2027.
Yeah. I'm getting film already ready to prove that word does not exist. So I'm already on it.
EJ, I am here for all of it, every freaking minute of it. Christian, you want to let everybody know how they can find you?
Yeah, you can catch me right here on the This Is Irrelevant podcast every Thursday night in this time slot. You can also give me a follow on my social handle there at the bottom left of my quadrant there at Zwick_Christian. Mock Draft 3.0. I dropped that this morning, so check it out. Check out my other Eagles, NFL draft content, also other sports takes and opinions. And Jim, as always, appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate all 3 of you coming on. So I want to remind everybody that we have a lot of different podcasts coming up. We have a lot of different mock drafts. So tomorrow night, we have our 32-person mock, 3 rounds. So we'll go 3 rounds. So tomorrow night, it starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, not 7. It is my kid's 18th birthday. Like, it's like weird, like saying, wow, my kids are now able to be drafted. Like, it's a weird feeling, let me tell you, and I don't feel that old. But we're doing our first marathon mock over the weekend, and we're doing our second one on Monday. So a marathon mock is when the Saturday morning podcast does round 1. The Sunday morning podcast is going to do round 2. The next Sunday morning podcast does round 3, and then the Sunday night podcast is going to do rounds 4 and 5. Then on Monday, we're just hitting the reset button, and we're going to start a second marathon. So Monday, the podcast will be round 1. Tuesday, the podcast will be round 2. The first Wednesday podcast is round 3. The second Wednesday podcast is round 4. Then the Thursday podcast, the early one, is going to do rounds 5, and they'll get into round 6. This podcast is going to do round 6 and 7.
Wow.
Nice.
So,
Oh boy,
this podcast, you are going to get some knowledge, because when you get to that part of the draft board, everything is so volatile that you guys are going to be able to talk about day 3 guys that you didn't even know that you were higher on.
Yep.
I'm gonna throw Jack Strand in a mock draft. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's go.
So you guys get the caboose of the marathon mock, but I think with knowing where all, how deep all your boards are, we're going to have a lot of fun next Thursday night. So there's going to be a lot of names called out that you do not hear their names on podcasts. These guys right here are going to be bringing it to you. So then we have Epic Mock 26, which is April 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's 32 podcasters mock drafting against each other. And that's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The Sunday after Epic Mock, there's going to be a UDFA podcast where they only talk about players that were not taken in the 7-round mock draft. So, yeah, we have some really good people here at Draft Professor with really deep boards. This is the time of year that we are going to show you how deep our boards are. So, and we're going to follow this up with live coverage of the NFL draft all 3 days with a special UDFA wrap up for the NFL draft as well. So it's all going to be here in Draft Professors. All you have to do is go follow it on YouTube. Hit that subscribe right now on YouTube, and you'll be notified for every single time that we go live, which is twice a day. And then, as EJ pointed out, in May, this podcast is going to start breaking down the quarterbacks. Thursday night's quarterback night. We're going to do 4 different quarterbacks every night starting in May. And then 11 weeks later, we will have given you the best 44 quarterbacks in college football. So we're breaking them down, and we are getting ready for the 2027 draft. We might sleep for a week, and then we're going to be right back at it. So for EJ, Christian, Jordan, myself, and the 85 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy your Thursday night, and we will see you on a podcast again tomorrow night.
Welcome to the Draft Professor channel, home of Epic Mock 26, April 9th, 10th, and 11th.